Hey everybody, it's Hayden Greene again, and we are back for Photography Live with Hayden Greene, and again, we still don't have a name for the show. I was thinking about calling it the Green Light Experience, but I already have the Greenhouse Experience, which happens on Thursdays for just general stuff. So I didn't want to get that confused. So the first person that sends me a name that I like and I'm gonna use, I will send you a picture. I'll send you a little something something. But we gotta get a better name. And as always, I'm gonna put up here in the chat my Cash App. It's a horrible way to start, right? Like, hey, here's some money. Here's some place that you can send me some money. But, we got to support each other. And like I always say, if you get a tip, leave a tip. All right? At the end of the show, at the end of the lesson, I'm actually going to tell you a way that I'll send you some stuff. So here's what's happening. I've got like a whole store of prints and stuff like that because I wanted to show you some stuff today for today's lesson. And there's a lot of stuff that I have not looked at in a very long while. It's really nice stuff. It's, prints that I really like, I appreciate, will go well on my walls. But I am married, and my wife has told me that if I put up another picture, she's going to kick me in the knees. We are running out of wall space. So these pictures are not up on the walls, even though I would put them every place. I'm that kind of guy. I'm the person that who had an apartment. If I had his own apartment, you would walk in and there would be wall to wall pictures, floor to ceiling. Right? My wife is a little bit more of a minimalist, so that benefits y'all. So because it's time to start giving this stuff away, I'd rather people get it, put it in a frame, toss it in their bathroom if they need to, or give it away as a gift or whatever. But I'd rather other people have it. So at the end of the lesson, I will tell you how you can get your very own print. All right. So today's lesson is leading lines and the rule of odd numbers. And so this is our fifth lesson. Yeah, wow, we're 5 lessons in. So this is our fifth lesson, and the reason that the reason that we're at the leading lines and all of the rules of photography is for one reason. When you take a picture, you want the people who are looking at this picture to get something from it. You want the people who are looking at it to know this is the thing that I want you to pay attention to. And all of these rules, so to speak, are ways for you to get the person who's looking at your picture to focus on the right thing. Even if you go back to your aperture and your shutter speed, even that's a way to say, I've blurred out all the rest of these things in the background. Here's the thing that I want you to focus on. Right, whether you do it through a motion blur or you do it through a depth of field blur, right? So it's all a matter of trying to get people to focus in on the thing that you want them to focus in on. And so these rules are just that. Last week we talked about the rule of thirds and putting your image in a place, and I have this right here with the grid, putting your image in a place where the eye normally goes to. And so when we start to talk about all of those different ways that you it's kind of like a trick. You trick the viewer to going to where you want them to see it. You start to see these things start to come together in combinations, right? So there are very, very obvious ones where, that's leading lines. And then there are some ones that are combinations of things. And it's like, okay, they've put those two things together. And it's a lot of different ways a lot of different techniques that people use. And sometimes they combine it, or sometimes they want to just leave one and just like, okay, this is what I am using today. So let's talk about the rule of odd numbers. That's the first thing that we're going to talk about. The rule of odd numbers says that the eye likes odd numbers. Why? It tries to find the center of things, right? So if you have 5 people in a frame, it's going to try to figure out what's the one in the middle, right? It's going to gravitate to the one in the middle. It's just the way that the brain works. And so the rule of odd numbers says that the thing that you want people to pay attention to should be in the middle. It's the reason why if you're doing a wedding and you set up the bride and groom, you try to have equal people on either side of the bride and groom so that when they pick up this picture, they go, oh, I'm supposed to look at these 2 people here in the center. It's the reason why if you are doing any sort of organizational picture or anything like that, you always put the head of the organization in the center. It's not because they're the center of attention, but if you are picking up the picture, your eye automatically goes to the odd number and the center of that odd number. And so that's the one thing that's the one place that you want to try to get there. So whether you are doing a picture of 5 or whether you're doing a picture of 3, you will also know that the number 1 is an odd number, right? So a picture of 1 is an odd number. So here is my rendition of Son of Man. It's from the Magritte reimagined picture. That's one person, right? He's in the center, and your eye automatically goes to him. So yes, I know what we talked about, putting pictures in those grids and stuff like that. But even with that, one person in the center, but I still managed to put the head of the subject on one of those third lines of thirds, right? So it's still a third. It's still a odd number. 1 is an odd number, but even if you did 3, and I'll show you. This is one of my favorite pictures ever. It's called 3 is the magic number, right? And as you can see, there are 1, 2, 3 boats, right? And your eye automatically gets drawn to this center boat, right? You pick up on the center boat all together. You pick up on these 3 boats all together because it's on that third hash, right? Here's 1/3 of the picture, 1/3 of the picture, 1/3 of the picture, 1/3 of the picture, and it's right at the intersection. But even at the intersection with those 3 boats, you focus on this boat. This one comes out more. There's also another trick. This boat is a little bit lighter than this boat, right? So your eye automatically goes to this one over here. We're going to come back to this picture because this also has the next thing that we're going to talk about, which is leading lines, right? This is one of my favorite pictures. This is one of the first pictures that I ever framed in my entire life. And it goes with me any place that we move to. So that's one of my favorites. Okay, and so here is its companion. This is called Serenity. And so here we also have an odd number of boats. But this is far more. These are actually 9 boats, right? These are far more than what your eye would normally pick up. But your eye knows that there's a number here and to go for the center boat, right? So you're going to focus on these boats over here. For me, in this actual picture, it's not really important which one of these boats you focus on, but your eye definitely will go to the center boats. Okay, and we'll come back to this picture as well. Those are 2 pictures that I absolutely love. We'll come back to those pictures because those 2 pictures utilize another one of the tricks that we're going to talk about a little bit later as well. Also, remember, if you have any questions as we're going through this, just drop them in here and I'll answer them as best as I can as we're moving along. So here's a little bit of a gotcha, or when it comes to the rule of odd numbers. Let's go back to our picture that we used for the grid, right? So if you looked at this picture, you would say, oh, okay, those are 2 people in that picture. And you would be wrong. Not that there are 2 pictures, not that there aren't 2 people in the picture, but that's not how the eye translates this. This is one subject. All right, so that's a little bit of a gotcha. This is one subject. When you have two people or two things that are so closely intertwined, that the eye thinks of this as one subject, right? So it's not a duality, and it's not two people, it's not a pairing, it's not a duo. This is one subject. And so the eye is automatically going to go to that. And then we decide where we put the thing about that subject that we want the eye to focus on. And again, that is where you drop in here at the hash marks. Right? And so that's not true of every single time you have two people in a picture, right? Couples, animals in combat, like for instance, so if you have a snake or, twirled around a lizard or something like that, that's going to be one subject, right? Because the eye is not going to be able to differentiate at first glance, oh, that's a snake, and then that's another animal around that the snake is around. The eye is going to think of it as one subject. So even at that point, you have, again, the rule of odd numbers playing in your favor. Now, why is that important? All right, so here's a picture. Here's a picture that I took, and it's a good picture, but it's a bad picture. Why do I have to say that? Okay. So the thing that I want you to focus on is this Mickey Mouse character right here, right? Why do I want you to focus on him? Because it's a Mickey Mouse character taking a picture of a Statue of Liberty's character, and normally it's people trying to take a picture with the Mickey Mouse, but the Mickey Mouse raises his head, which is a huge Disney taboo. But this is Times Square, so all rules are off, right? So raises his head and takes a picture over here. But there's also another Mickey Mouse over here. There are a bunch of people everywhere else. Nobody who looks at this picture knows exactly what to look at. And that's the problem. It's because there are no clean lines, there are no clean indicators as to who I should be looking at. This picture is not a great picture, right? It might have been better if I chopped off this picture here, cropped it out here. That way I'd have less people and maybe it will be more focused. The best thing for me to have done was to change where I was standing. Now, sometimes you can't do that because this is happening in the moment, but change where I was standing and maybe stand behind this Mickey Mouse, right? So that person becomes the center of attention. And maybe these two people would be on the side, and then I'd be able to catch something on the other side. Or maybe it's just the Mickey Mouse sitting in one of the thirds on the grid for my picture. So again, here's where this picture would have benefited from the rule of threes. There are too many people in this picture, too many things to look at, not enough direction for the person who is picking this picture up to know what I should be paying attention to, right? Here's another picture that I like, but is a bad picture, right? This is a picture of bamboo, right? Now, if you look carefully, I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, you can see that there. If you look carefully, there are words on each of the bamboo. So apparently people were walking through this wooded area. They came across the bamboo, and like teenagers or maybe even older people are prone to do, they carved their names or carved words into the bamboo. And so it's an interesting picture, but it doesn't work because, again, there are so many bamboo stalks. Which one do I want you to look at? Where should your eye go? This picture, again, could have used a crop. If I did this bamboo stalk would stick out, right? Because, again, the eye goes to the center of whenever it sees patterns. Anytime it sees a pattern, it's going to go to that. And the center of it is, in an odd number, will be this one here. So if I cropped it out here, maybe that would have made for a better picture, right? And so, again, or maybe if I cropped it on this side, I might have been able to have your rule of threes over here and maybe use negative space or, and a couple of different things. But again, this picture doesn't work This picture doesn't work because there are too many things to look at and too many items in the frame for the viewer to figure out exactly what I want you to pay attention to. All right? So that's the rule of odd numbers and the rule that a lot of people use. You'll see it a lot. You have a group of four and you try to figure out who's going to be in the center, or you bump one person out, or you grab one person in, or and this is where you create a center sometimes. Sometimes you'll tell the two people in the center to hug, and we just talked about couples register in the mind as one person. Right? So if you got the two people on the side, and you have the people in the center hugging, that kind of registers as, three people, not four. Right? So that's one way to do it. So that's one rule. The rule of odd numbers. The next rule, here's another rule of odd numbers. This is one of my favorite pictures. This is a lonely palm tree. And so again, it's got nothing else around it. There's a lot of things going on. You've got vegetation in the back. You even have a little tree, a little shrub over here. But because it's a lone palm tree, and very rarely do you ever see just one, a lone palm tree, even the dark skies and the stormy skies don't register. Your eye focuses on that one palm tree. And again, I have one other picture. Okay, here's a really good one. So, this is called Long Shadows, right? These are a group of Phi Beta Sigma men, and they are coming out of an event. And this, again, is the rule of odd numbers. Now, you may say to me, well, I can't see how many people are in here. But not all the people in this picture are main contributors to the mind's eye. Your mind is going to pick up the faces. The mind is going to pick up the people who are looking at the camera or are facing the camera. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In a picture with about a dozen people in it, only 5 people register as subjects. And in that subject, in those 5 people, your eye is going to go to the one in the center, right? Again, it's a trick of how you're trying to get people to register. And again, all of this can be done in post, right? So I may have had even more pictures, even more people in this frame, but I cut it down so that I'm focused on just this center area. The other benefit of this is that there is a sun flare over his head, so it kind of always it also illuminates him and shows you exactly where you should be looking. All right, so that's the rule of odd numbers. All right, so let's move on to rule of leading lines. All right, so the minute I tell you this, you're going to go outside and realize that there are lines everywhere, right? Lines happen naturally in a number of different ways, whether it is a group of trees, whether it is the lines on the road or buildings, but lines happen naturally all around us. And your eye, so if you've ever taken an art class or those art classes when you were very, very young, and they taught you how to draw in perspective where the line leads all the way to the back, because that's the way that your mind sees things, right? If you look at a road, the road seems to get narrower and narrower and narrower as it goes further down the road. Now, we all know the lines on the side of the road are perfectly straight, but because of perspective, it seems like it's coming together. Well, that also works for photography. The mind will look in the place, it will pick up the lines in your picture, and it will start to look in a place where those lines are pointing to. And it is very, very helpful to then take that knowledge and point your viewer's eye to the thing that you want them to pay attention to. Okay, so I've got a bunch of stuff here. So here's an easy representation of that. All right, so this is the underside of the Brooklyn Bridge, and you immediately see the leading line come down here and the leading line come down here. So it's forcing your eye to come to this side of the picture, or this bottom end of the picture, on which there are a bunch of buildings that you can now pay attention to. So the leading lines draw your eye down here to where the main subject, the main information about this particular picture is, right? So that's an easy show where you have leading lines. Here is literally one of my favorite pictures. And I know I say this a lot, but this is called the Pylon Surfer, okay? And so this picture has that road affect, right? So these pylons are perfectly symmetrical. They don't converge at the end. But because it's given that feeling that it's converging because of perspective and the way the minds are, these leading lines, which are the sides of the pylon, come together and starts to point you in the direction of the thing that I want you to pay attention to, which is the surfer surfing through the pylons. Now, of course, these lines also go up, which also could tell you to look at the patina up here, which is also interesting. But once you get up here, those leading lines then converge back to the negative space and get you closer to the surfer. So there are a bunch of leading lines in just this one picture, but they're all trying to get you to come forward and look at the thing that's important, which is the surfer. By the way, any of the pictures that I am showing you, you are able to purchase them if you wanted to decorate your home, your office, your wherever you want to decorate. We take care of you. We don't discriminate. Here's another leading line. This is in Old San Juan, and so and if you know anything about my photography, you know I like to get down in the ant's view. So I have a lot of pictures that have this perspective again, and so this is the road thing again. So you got a leading line here, you got a leading line here, but you also have leading lines in the stones in the road, the cobblestones in the road. And so these are all pointing down to the back of the picture, in which I want you to focus on this man walking down there by himself, right? So leading lines are very important and very easy to find. The minute you, like I said, now that I've told you leading lines and showed you what you're looking for, you're going to go outside and be like, oh, there's leading lines over there. There are leading lines over there. This is a rug in Dubai. All right. So here's the thing. This one isn't pointing you in anywhere, right? But it is drawing you into this picture, right? So you have leading lines here, leading lines here. You have some more over here, and you have some more over here. And so when you step into this picture, when you start to look at this picture, the first thing you do is go, okay, I'm coming into this picture. It encourages you to look at the pattern. It encourages you to look at what's happening, right? So it's now drawing you in. And that's another trick where your leading line leads you to negative space. So now I'm bringing you in. It's kind of like that Star Trek thing. Ooh, boy, I nearly lost my geek card. That Star Wars thing where the words are leading off into the distance. That's a technique of bringing you into the picture and making sure that you focus on what's happening there. Okay, I said that we would come back to it, and we are. So here is that picture again. This is Serenity. And so you cannot tell, but these planks down here are not parallel to the sides of the picture, which means that they are converging. If you push these lines further and you extended them all the way back, they would push back into this mountain, right? And so now you've got all of these lines, and your eye is trained to follow them, and they're pointing this way. And in this case, they're pointing to the boats. So in addition to having we want you to pay attention to that middle boat, now all of these lines are pointing you that we want you to pay attention to the boat in particular, the boats at all, right? Because there's a beautiful lake back here, But what does your eye get drawn to? The boats, because these lines are pushing towards it. Um, there's some leading lines over here as well, but because they're part of the mountain, you really don't pick them up as much. And like I said, we were going to come back to 3 is the magic number. And here we are again. And so here's a leading line that brings you from, if you manage, because again, this is on the right-hand side of the picture, but if you manage to, your eye managed to get over here somehow, those leading lines pulls you back this way, right? So here's another line that's a diagonal that pulls you back into this direction, right? And it can be really, really subtle. And so when you start to recognize them, when you start to look at your pictures and you realize that you have these leading lines, or your subject is at the back of a leading line, or you are trying to take a picture and you want to make sure that people are paying attention to that particular thing, you can start to, move the camera around, move your subject around so that they're sitting in a place where these leading lines converge towards them. And if you're in a city, it's really easy. Pavements, street lights, street poles. There are a number of buildings. There are a number of different ways to pull your subject into a place where the leading lines point to it. Okay, so we are wrapping up. And I don't see any questions, but if you do have them, you can always hit me up later on. But I'm happy to address them right now if you do have a question. The other thing that I wanted to do for you is, if you're interested in getting random art, and you are interested in surprises, and they're good surprises. I won't send you bad stuff. What I'm going to do is, for everybody who sends me $5 to my Cash App, and the Cash App is sitting right up there. If you send me $5 to my Cash App, I'll send you a print. It might be a print this size. It might be a smaller print like this, or it might be something a lot larger. It won't be framed. It'll just be a print. And so you get it. You can do whatever you want with it. You can frame it. You can use it as a doorstop. Whatever you want to do with it. Or if if here's the thing, you do whatever you want with it. I would love to see it hanging in your wall, right? So, and I'll do one better for you. So you send me $5, right? I'll send you a print. If you hang it up and take a picture of it hanging, I will give you 15% off of any of your next purchase, right? That's my deal for you, right? So send me $5, I'll send you a print, you hang it up, you get 15% of anything that you want off of the store, and the store is really easy to find. It's Green Light Photo, Green with an E at the end, greenlightphoto.darkroom.tech, and I'll post this when we post this as the IGTV. So this is going to go onto IGTV afterwards. Y'all are real quiet today, so I feel like I'm boring you. But again, we are always here, 5 o'clock. Next week, we're going to jazz it up a little bit. We're going to talk about negative space and minimalism. And so we'll start talking about how we position our pictures. And is busy too busy, or do we take stuff away from it? All right, and so that I love negative. Well, maybe you don't know this. I love negative space as much as I can, and I love doing some really cool minimalist stuff where the whole picture is blank and there's only like one little thing that you're supposed to be focusing on, or you've seen those pictures where it's a completely black and white image, and somebody's walking up a set of white stairs, and all you see is that one person against a white wall. Those are things like minimalism that are really, really interesting, and it's not easy to do. So that's the thing, right? You're not going to just walk in and be like, oh, okay, I'll just look for a blank space and drop one person in. It has to make sense. And we'll talk about how it makes sense next week. So as always, this is Hayden Greene. This has been photography on your Saturday at 5 o'clock. Your jolt of photography. And again, if you got a tip, leave a tip, and we will see you again next week. Thank you all, and have an excellent time, and stay safe out there.